Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast, episode 47, the Tory Krug podcast. Am I right?
I argued for Stefan LeBeau, but since, yes, fine, Tory Krug.
Well, why would you want somebody from the Hogan's Heroes on the show?
That's not...
Is that a different LeBeau?
I know nothing. I see nothing.
So anyway, yeah, episode 47 of the Digital to Dice podcast. Today's episode is going to be, I wasn't expecting that.
That's what Aunt Becky said, too.
Yeah, as we played some games recently, and it's like, holy cow, this is not what I was expecting.
Yes.
And so not what I was expecting. That wasn't what I expected, whatever you want to do. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the show. We're going to talk about what we're playing and a few other things. But let's start off with some ways to get a hold of us here. Our website is digitaltodice.com, digitaltodice.com. That's where you can go and find all of our podcasts that we park at Spreaker.com. Our text number here, 978-751-DICE, 978-751-3423 if you want to send us a text and say hi. And on Facebook, our Facebook group is facebook.com/groups/digital-to-dice. And
376 people there, by the way.
Boy, that's growing by leaps and bounds in the whole bit.
Thank you so much.
So, yeah. And so next week, we're going to have our one-year anniversary show, because that'll be the end of the first year. And we're going to read some of the comments. We've asked for some comments from you guys. Mostly good. Mostly. But I will read some of the comments you guys sent in as we had our end of the year fundraiser to try to keep the show going, and thank you all for helping out. And more than you know now, as I got some really bad news with my job yesterday. I had a very emotional broadcast on my channel last night. That some of you may have saw, and you may have been upset, but I am a person, I am a human, and I got really bad news, and might require me actually moving out of my house. And so if things get to that point. So I was very upset last night, very upset. The wife's very upset. So but anyway, this morning I went back to my my wrestling stuff, and we'll talk about that in what we're playing. But we thank everybody for helping contribute to keep the show going for another year. That's very generous of you, and we're glad that you enjoy what we're doing. So
we're going to do 48 shows in our first year.
Yeah, that's not too bad. What is it, 52 weeks a year?
52 weeks a year, and with everything going on, I mean, obviously we took a week of Thanksgiving and a week of Christmas because that's that time of the year. But yeah, we only missed 4 weeks.
Yep, and that's not too bad. Yep, I think there was one of them. One of us got busy. Maybe I got busy at work and you got busy with something. But yeah, we try to be pretty steady as we can. We try to make it weekly, even though when we set out to do the show, we knew we wouldn't be, we couldn't hold ourselves to a weekly schedule. But we've done pretty well, I would say.
Absolutely, we have.
So anyway, shall we get to what we're playing?
Mm-hmm. Aunt Becky, you're not supposed to tip the Amazon drone like that. Jeez.
They have Amazon drones now?
They do it. I just woke up my thing, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
in the bigger cities, they do same-day delivery, yeah. They've been testing it out.
I always wondered how that worked, because wouldn't you think that people would be throwing rocks at it and stuff like that?
I would not trust it, because that or gets tangled up in some wires or anything like that.
It's a great idea on paper, but just they had a thing. Remember that robot that they tried to have go all across the country on the ground, and it got into Philadelphia, and they beat it up and destroyed it in Philadelphia?
No.
Yeah, it got all the way from the West Coast to the East Coast, and by the time it got to Philadelphia, they saw it on the street, and they destroyed it. So, yeah, I can imagine that what would happen with drones is people would just think it'd be funny to destroy it. So,
yeah.
But anyway, as long as the packages keep coming, I'm okay with it. I mean, I'd rather have the driver. I'd rather give the driver work than a drone. But
I've gotten got my second thing in this week of 4. The cat will be happy with package number 4.
Oh, there you go. Is it a mouse?
No, it's her canned cat food.
Oh, good stuff.
Little girls got to eat,
So let's see. We'll get to what we're playing here, Ron. Let me see. I broke out Ultra Quick Wrestling. I'm in a wrestling mood. I've been watching a ton of Undertaker videos.
He's back in a wrestling mood.
I am. It's like I haven't followed wrestling in quite some time, probably 20 years. I mean, every now and then you hear about it. But The Undertaker was a big guy, and I enjoyed his character. And so he finally retired, and the whole streak thing. And I didn't even know anything about the streak. That's how much I follow it. But I enjoy it once in a while. And so after watching
every streak being every WrestleMania, right?
I think it was a WrestleMania thing. Like I said, I didn't follow it. I've gone to wrestling when I was a kid, and but the last one we went to, I think, was 98 or 99 when we first moved into the house here. We went to a couple of shows, and one at the Boston Garden and one in Worcester, and we saw Mankind defeat The Rock for the championship, which is, I think that was his first championship, and that was fun. I think I got it on tape somewhere, but that's the one Stone Cold come out at the end and dropped The Rock down while everybody was fighting and threw Mankind on The Rock, and the ref turned around and covered him. They're typical wrestling stuff. But we had some good times. So I pulled out the 96 to 98 set that they offer from Downey Games, Ultra Quick Wrestling, and I'm going to set up my federation. So I did a video this morning showing which of my wrestlers are in the federation. And I went over some of the tag teams and the lady wrestlers and the whole bit. And so I showed who was in my federation this morning in a video. So I'm looking forward to rolling that. And that's just a couple of rolls. It's not a move by any means, but it's just a couple of rolls. But it's very fun to play. I finished up my what game did I use for that, Jacket? That was Shootout Hockey. Shootout Hockey.
Oh, yeah.
The 69-70 playoffs. I finished those finally. It took about a week. When I started with the actual matchups from the 1969-70 NHL playoffs, and then as the seeds fell, I just went along and played it out as it would have been if those teams won. I had a lot of upsets in round one, and it come down to the St. Louis Blues and the New York Rangers in the finals, and it went 7 games. 7 games, and the St. Louis Blues won the Stanley Cup that year. Boston had a 3-0 series lead on the Rangers in the opening round and blew it. The Rangers won 4 in a row, come back 4 in a row and won that series. Crazy.
Cards and dice don't read newspapers.
No, they don't. And the Oakland Seals won a playoff series. They beat the Pittsburgh Penguins 4 games to 1.
You must have been pretty tickled about that, being the Seals fan. I mean, you got the Seals banner up behind you that people can't see, but
they lost 4-0, I think, in real life, and they won 4-1. So they destroyed the Penguins. It was fun. Then they got destroyed by St. Louis. But I did a little video recap on that. I'm incorporating PowerPoint into some of
my... I saw that. I haven't watched the video, but I saw that you got a nice dark background, so it actually looks like good TV.
Oh, my gosh. I was using Excel because I used to like to use Word for stuff. Word is so unfriendly, though, with text and graphics. So Excel allowed you to move graphics all over the place. I was like, oh, this is what I'm going to use. But then I looked into PowerPoint. It's like, wow. If you want to do a display like some of the things that we do, PowerPoint might be the way to go because they have the templates set up and the nice backgrounds and I set it up like a scoreboard. If you were looking at that on the news, like on a scoreboard type of thing, and and I just recapped some of the games and went over every. I didn't go detail with every game, but I had the scores from every game and maybe a couple of highlights of the game and followed everything through all the way to the finals. It was a.
I obviously have PowerPoint. I haven't used it, but you've suggested it, and there's probably a few things I will use it for.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you need Excel for some things, but there's something depending how you do it. If you're displaying the PowerPoint, it's just you move everything. It's just grab and move. Whatever you want to move. You're not limited to like with Word or even Excel. So I'm enjoying the PowerPoint presentation is for my recaps, and hopefully people enjoying the recaps because it's fun to write a recap, but sometimes it's fun to put up the scores and talk about it too, and treat it like a broadcast, is what it was. So I did that with Shootout Hockey. Shootout Hockey is so fun. I did a video on some of my homebrew rules that I started using in the playoffs and got some good feedback on that. Let me see. I started up with the Hockey Blast from Play. I played a couple games. Again, going back to 69-70. That's kind of the spark for today's show is Bruins Blues, and we're split 1-1 after 2 games in St. Louis. And but I decided right after that to take a break from the hockey and go do the wrestling. So I did a lot of hockey stuff. I did a lot of golf a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to take a break from the golf and the hockey and do some wrestling and see how my federation goes. Still trying to come up with a name for the federation.
Is Bam Bam Bigelow in it, or is that too late?
No, this is 96-98. So I think that's a little after him.
A little after Bam Bam.
Yeah, it's funny because there's some classic wrestlers in this group that were on the end of their careers, and there's some guys that were just starting out, like The Rock and stuff, who went on to illustrious careers. And
John Cena?
No,
early in his career?
No,
Too
I
early?
don't have him in there. No, guys like Gold Dust and Val Venus and Gangrel and stuff like that. I all those guys.
Sounds like something I put in my hair.
Yeah,
Right.
Gangrel. He was part of the Brood. I liked the intro to the Brood. The music was really, really eerie. I liked the Brood. So that's what I've been playing there. Jacko, what have you been doing?
Well, it was kind of a partial vacation week with the wife's birthday and everything, but we got in 3 games in our 78 baseball replay. But the things that kind of interest me the most, I got and demoed on the channel Classic Golf, which Bruce Kish, who was one of our early guests, re-released Classic Golf. It's a game that he had out before and has I'm not sure what has changed in this or not. And so you can watch the review on my channel, Retro Sport, not review, but the overview on my channel. And you know what? For what it is, I liked it. Essentially, it comes with every tournament, but not at every field. And I would say maybe the top 100, 125 on the money list for each year. And it was cheap, relatively speaking. $33 got me the PDFs for everything that he's got. So it's kind of like, I can do the Soccer Mom station from the 80s to today, a little Cheap Trick, a little Level 42, and a little Maroon 5 for you. And so it's pretty much what you adjust for the course. You get a adjusted score, and then you go round by round, 1 roll per round. You can do it however you want. And on the last day, they have, for some golfers, like the top 3 or 4, they have rally rolls. So you might be only up by a shot and might want to see if you can kind of edge that up a little bit, or you might be down 3 or 4 shots, and so you might need to try to really kind of grind through those last few holes to do that. And so that was quite interesting. And the other thing I did...
I like the games that have either the rally roll, the clutch roll, the close game factor. Yeah. I like the games, especially the quicker play games, that you roll the dice and it's not over yet. You still have an extra roll that you can do. There's a chart to read off of or something, but there's something extra in there that
yes,
I've always enjoyed that in games. Final Score Hockey had that from Downey Games. I think it was a close game factor, whereas if it was tied at 1 goal, you had an extra roll in there, and it added a little bit of extra drama to a quick play game. So and I'm glad it has that.
And so congratulations, Bruce. And so you can find that at asggames.com. The other thing I did is I'm just really talking about things I didn't expect. This Tokyo thing just gets bigger and bigger all the time.
Ooh, really?
Yeah. This is, instead of taking, I thought it was like 13 or 14 like one-off episodes. No, we're looking at a year to do all this.
Oh, wow.
So I've been trying to run through and put on stream or post on the Digital Days Facebook group. I wanted to do something with each sport before. I don't want the first time I touch a sport to be for the actual event. You do it. And so because a lot of these games, they're some of them are quick play games, although the racing games really aren't quick play games. If it takes longer to actually simulate the event than it does to actually run the real life event, that's not a quick play game. Then again, I'm not sure how you would do a 100-yard dash online in 10 seconds anyway, unless you had a lot of prunes. Ba-doom, boom.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. But a lot of it is spreadsheet based because it's easier for me to record the results. And thanks to Joseph Midget for showing me how to do to display time as time on a spreadsheet.
I don't even think I know how to do that.
He actually sent me something. It took me a while to figure out, and then I missed one calculation. And I'm like, okay, so I can actually do a video on that. But thanks to him, we got it. And so I did a rowing race. I actually looked up on Google, the Google thingy, who was the most decorated Olympic rower and who was the most decorated Olympic sailor. And they're both British. And so I figured, okay, I don't need to go back and do, okay, so this is the event from this Olympics and this is the event from that Olympics. I just moved everything to mine. I've got a rather large lake about 2 blocks from here, Lake Champlain. And so with the help of Google Maps and Google Earth, which I downloaded, I was able to zoom in on the bay where I am for the rowing race. And then for the sailing race, I went up to the next big town across the lake in New York. And so we tried to make it look effortless. It was anything but effortless. So I made a special thing to have Google Earth open, and so I could have it closed on my computer, not closed, but, shrunk on my computer, but still there. But when I went to go from one transition to the next, it wouldn't pop open until I moved the mouse. Oh, yeah, that was real fun to figure out. You think Sunday Ron is grumpy? I had to stop in the middle of it and eat dinner so I wouldn't chuck expensive pieces of machinery out windows because I was not a happy camper. But anyway, so we did a sample rowing race and a sample sailing race, of course, around on the 4th of July weekend. And so it would have just been too tempting to call it the Treason Day races because the winners were British, but I didn't. And no one laughed at my Ken joke.
I didn't get it either.
I'm not going to talk about it on the stream because it is kind of off color, but no one got it. I described the type of rowing race it is. So in the first 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay.
But no one thought that was funny. Anyway, so that's pretty much what I've been playing.
Okay. So shall we get into the topic at hand?
Let's do that.
All right.
Well, I wasn't expecting that.
So anyway, let's talk about I wasn't expecting that. I think that's a good title. Wasn't expecting that. And we started talking about this the other day when I was doing my shootout hockey replay when not only did the Bruins fold, but the St. Louis Blues of that year, they got swept by Boston, the Bobby Orr series. We all remember that. But that series was 4-0. Okay, and the Bruins actually beat them up pretty good in St. Louis, and then back in Boston, the games are closer, culminating with the overtime winner in Game 4. These guys are super strong. I've played them in probably 5 or 6 hockey games now, from quick play to medium play to long play. The 1969-70 St. Louis Blues, there's no reason why they should have been swept by the Bruins. They were, on paper, they're a strong team. So every time I play this through, and I thought maybe, I played a couple of quick play games or I played this game. Okay, maybe this game has just got it wrong. No. I've played a lot of games, a lot of hockey games with the St. Louis Blues from 69-70, and I can't get the Bruins to sweep. I played computer games. I played tabletop games. Like I said, all different kinds of games. I might even played 7 different games. And I can't get the Bruins to sweep. And I remember saying, I was not expecting this. I was not expecting St. Louis to be so tough. But they are. And I sat down and I played the Hockey Blast game. And even looking at the cards on the table, I'm like, holy smoke. These St. Louis Blues are a better team on paper than the Boston Bruins, if that's possible. Especially when you get to the second and third lines. And so it's not.
Al Arbor was pretty underrated as a defenseman.
The Barclay Plager, Bob Plager there, Red Berenson. I mean, and there's some guys that I'd never heard of that was scoring goals in my replays, but I was not expecting that. And so now that I'm playing more games, now I'm like, okay, this team is not a pushover, And the other thing that came to mind is, remember about a year ago when I started playing Action PC Hockey? And I took the 74 Bruins. Remember, I put the Russians on the 74 Bruins.
Armaloff, Mikhailov, and Tretiak, right?
Yep, Tretiak was in the net, and I had Mikhailov, and Karlamov. Yep. And so I had Phil Esposito centering 2 Russians on line 1, and I put Tretiak in the net. And I thought this would be a powerhouse team, okay? And they are anything but a powerhouse team. Tretiak is 500 at best. In fact, he's been replaced by Gilbert in the net. The Russians was so bad, they ended up down on the 3rd line at one point. Now one of them's hurt and it's not playing. I was not expecting that. No, not at all. Not at all. So back to the
Blues, when we took a look at it, their goaltending was tremendous.
Oh, jeepers, yeah. If you look at anything's got a
third-string goalie's what? A goal against average of 2.5?
Glenn Hall's the third-string goalie, yeah, and he was still rated high. And, you got Jacques Plante, Ernie Wakely, and they're, boy, I tell you, the first time I played them was with Strat Hockey. I think I was on the PC, and I remember showing you his card. I was like, how am I supposed to score on this guy?
Yes.
And this was supposed to be, one of the expansion teams, only 3 or 4 years in the league, and they got these rock-solid goalies to a point where, if you played them on cards and dice, you can't beat them. And I remember you looked up their schedule, and you says, well, they really weren't a bad team. They weren't really manhandled by the original 6 teams as bad as you thought.
No, they gave the Bruins fits.
But still, they were supposed to be a weaker team in the weaker division. And that was, I think, 70 was the last year that they put all
before the Blackhawks went in.
Yeah, because what they did is they brought in the 6 expansion teams in 67, and they put them all in the same division to guarantee one of the new teams a cup berth, and they did that for 3 years, and then finally they switched that.
All 3 years.
Yeah, they went there all 3 years, and they didn't win a game. But this last team was like, wow, they're really not bad. They're
one of those things, because you can't card based on, well, I suppose you could, but, the companies don't card based on playoff performance. Although they had to win 2 rounds of playoffs to get to the final, right? It was the top 4 in each conference.
But they were playing expansion teams. They were playing the Oakland Seals,
Right. So they beat those teams rather handily, and they were mediocre against the original 6. And so, in order to get it carded right so you can get them to that level, I'm not saying that they were over-carded, but based on the regular season performance, as I said to you when you were playing it, cards and dice don't read the paper. They don't know about fatigue, and they don't watch press conferences.
Yeah. And the other thing that they don't do is you might have, if you're doing a replay, you might have somebody that got hot at a certain part of the season or in the playoffs. Example, if I were to play 71, Ken Dryden. Could I get Ken Dryden to get hot as he did in real life, or how are they going to card him just because he got hot in the playoffs?
No, that's the year the Bruins, as he did in your final score replay, just tore through everything like a hot knife through butter.
Yeah,
because of the best regular season. And I think hockey and maybe football, because of the one-game nature of how that postseason works, is where you can get some of the crazier stuff to happen. Because baseball, after 162 games, you pretty much know what's what. You can get a fluky team like the 87 Minnesota Twins or something like that, but they're very rarely are you going to get completely surprised by that. And in basketball, it took a while for an 8 seed ever to beat a 1. Mm-hmm. And now that would even be tougher because all the rounds in the NBA playoffs are best of 7s.
Yeah.
So you might be able to surprise with a 500 team against a good Laker or Celtic team in a best of 3 or a best of 5, but on a best of 7, that's just becomes really hard.
But there's some things, like if you've ever tried to play the 1980 USA Olympic hockey team, they get destroyed. Or actually, maybe not destroyed, but they don't win. They're just not the strongest team. It makes for them to lose is not a surprise. So a couple times I played them, I was like, wow, they're a mediocre team and they're not winning, but I'm not surprised. But I was surprised with the Blues. I was surprised at how bad the Russians were in the NHL. And you've had some instances too where you've done some things you're like, wow, that's not what I expected.
Here's a couple of them. I did a tournament for Dave Little a few years ago. I talked about this on my channel or last year, and clearly he wanted the 75 Cincinnati Reds to get to the final. I mean, that was the whole point. And so for his first round game, he chose the 73 New York Mets as the four seed in the National League. And that was the team that won the division with 84 games. And so you think, the big red machine against the Mets, okay. In a best of 3, best of 5, best of 7, I'd put dollars of donuts on the Reds, especially the longer you went on with the series. But he wanted a one-gamer. And so, okay, that's what we'll do. And he clearly had, he's paying for it. He can do what he wants. But the 75 Reds ran into Tom Seaver. And it was a one and done because Seaver shut them down. And you get a hot pitcher, kind of like, Dryden and Ned or what the Blues did. And that's that. And it's like, oops, it's over. Thank you very much for playing. And it's not what I expected. But you could kind of go through and see, like, if you get that hot hand, anybody can shut you down over one game.
Yeah.
Probably the one that strikes me the most of a finished project was the 1978 Kansas City Chiefs. The 1978 Kansas City Chiefs went 4-12 in real life.
Okay.
They pretty much ran a wishbone office in the NFL, which is 3 running backs and a quarterback who can't throw. Okay? I mean, this team had no right to do much of anything. This was the team, Dave, that was the benefit that performed or was the recipient of the walk-off safety.
Okay.
The one that got us going together.
Okay.
The day that you watched, and I'm trying desperately to run a pitch play so I don't have to go to overtime. Well, I didn't go to overtime because he got tackled by Tom Jackson in the end zone. Okay?
I think I watched that in bed because I was suffering from gout. And I was laid up in bed watching you on my phone in bed because I couldn't walk. And I remember watching that live.
See, I disable everybody. Not just myself. So at one point, they're just kind of rolling along. They're not winning by a lot. I featured them, and they have no quarterback. All they can do is run. Their defense is young. I think it's Art Still's rookie year or second year. This team shouldn't be doing anything. But the computer is playing their games. I'm not, just like with anybody else, I'm not playing them. And so a Red Sox fan was bored one day, and he looked at the record. And he said, yeah, they're 4-12. But, Ron, there was like 6 or 7 games they lost by under 3 points.
I think you said that there's a lot of close losses.
Yeah, it's a lot of close losses. And look, especially in football, the difference between a 10-6 team and a 6-10 team can be as little as 5 points. And so that's what happened to Kansas City, and Kansas City ended up as a wild card for me. And it's like, well, how in the world did that happen? I didn't expect that to happen. How in the world did that happen? Well, if they weren't 4-12 and getting blown out by 20 points a game. You get a bunch of close games, and this goes one way and that goes another. Then that happens. But it's again, you could probably do that season 10 times. And they probably aren't even a 500 team in the 900 replays. It just happens that that's the one time that you pull it out. I don't think it's like the St. Louis Blues where you could say, oh, they're overcarded. No. I mean, that's how they work. Numbers don't lie. And if you believe the engine that you're playing, then that's the way that they are. The other one in the current project I'm doing is the 78 Boston Red Sox. The computer just does not know what the heck to do with those people. They won 99 games. If they had beaten the Yankees in that one-game playoff, they would have been a 100-win team.
Wow.
They're 2 games above 500 in my replay.
Wow.
Everybody else is kind of where they should be. Houston was giving the Dodgers a hard time, and they fell back down to earth. And the Yankees really can't win at home, which is a strange thing. But, yeah, the Red Sox, the last time I looked, were like 57 and 55. And here's a team that should have – well, they weren't going to stroll because the pitching isn't there. And that's the other thing, if you replay that particular year, is trying to get the Red Sox to win. But they shouldn't be a 500 team. There's absolutely no way that – but they are that. And it's all as-played lineups, and the computer does every team that I don't play in an individual game. I mean, I might have done 5 or 6 Red Sox games over the course of the year, so it's not like I'm that much better with the Red Sox than the computer. I think I've pretty much had the same record, but it's one of those cases of, look, we knew they couldn't pitch, but 57 and 55?
Yeah. So, you weren't expecting that. For
and
sure.
Certainly wasn't expecting that, and because of being a Red Sox fan, you're really, it's like, no, that, I know how good that team can be. They can hit, but their pitching is...
Now, the other night we were talking on the phone, And we were discussing this, and didn't you pull on Action PC Football, and you simulated last season?
I mean, the other night we talked because the new game, the 2020 version's out, and so the 2019 season, and so we got talking about the 2019 Patriots. They started out 10-0.
They were 10-0, and then they failed down the stretch a little bit, and that's when they collapsed.
So I just happened. Yeah, we were chatting back and forth, and I just happened to I haven't actually done anything with the season, so I did a quick sim, and they started 9-0, and they finished 10-6.
So it was pretty close. But the thing that what was the one team that you said, "Wow, this is unbelievable"?
Dallas.
Dallas was what, 500 at best, and weren't they what'd you say, 14-2 or something?
I think they were 14-2
in your replay.
Yeah,
because I remember you going, "Wow, the Patriots were pretty spot on with this replay," but look at Dallas.
Dallas, I think went 14-2. So, and they had a lot. Kansas City had a great year. San Francisco had a great year. Baltimore was 8-7-1.
Yeah, that's low for them.
That's low for them. So, but in any, you're going to have an outlier in anything, especially when AI is doing it. I mean, naturally, we all have some inherent biases when we play, whether we realize it or not. And so we might go to different players more often than others, but the computer just looks at numbers and says, this number should go here. But yeah, Dallas went 14-2, but I found it very curious because everything is done from the end of the year standpoint. That the Patriots would start off nearly as hot and end up nearly with the same identical record. And when I opened up the log for the Patriots, that Tom Brady struggled in the games that he struggled in real life.
Yeah, that's fun when that happens.
And so it's like, okay, because sometimes you got to wonder in any computer game whether or not, okay, are the books being cooked or how much excess is that, this, that, and the other thing? And like, nope, that's really what happened. And so like, but yeah, so again, you always will have some variance, but yeah, it's really not what I expected. I kind of expected the Patriots to kind of roll to struggle throughout both halves of the season, or I could have figured they could have gone 14-2.
It was just interesting that they come pretty darn close, though. But the one you weren't expecting was Dallas. I remember that.
Dallas, yeah.
And there's always something that's a little out there, and it's like, boy, that's not what I expected. Even though you weren't playing Dallas, but just and sometimes that's fun too. If you're doing a thing like this, where you're playing maybe one team or two teams, but you're still simulating the rest of the season, is to see that odd duck come out of nowhere.
I just opened it up. They went 15-1.
Oh, jeepers.
And Washington and Philadelphia were in second place at 7-9. They got the Giants right. They were 4-12.
Wow.
The Patriots went 11-5, and Buffalo went 8-7-1. But the funny thing is, in the power ratings for that season, no, Dallas was second. Never mind. Top 5 offenses: Kansas City 33 points a game, New Orleans at 30 points a game, the Rams at 28.1, San Francisco at 27.9, and Dallas averaged 27.7. Defense, the Vikings went 12-4. They're the best defense in my just quick sim there. 17.4 points a game. Dallas's defense only gave up 17.6.
Wow.
San Fran was third, Buffalo fourth, and the Patriots defense was fifth at 18.7 points a game.
The Pats had a good defense for a while that year.
And so it's one of those, you just really don't know what to. I wasn't expecting that, but I wasn't expecting the Patriots to kind of replicate in real time what they did over a course of a week. If you take the undefeated season, the 2007 season, I would venture to guess if you replayed that 10 times, they would not run the table in the regular season. I'm talking about maybe 6. I think Baltimore came close to beating them, and Philadelphia should have beat them, if you remember.
Right, yeah.
That would be very difficult to go 16-0.
Yep.
But again, you had a case when you were, I think, game-winning drive where Tampa upset Dallas to go to the Super Bowl in 79.
Yeah, I replayed the playoffs, starting with the actual matchups, and then went for there. And I think I had some upsets right away, so that deflected the balance. I mean, changed it. Just changed the games is what I should say. Changed the second round game. So instead of the Rams going to Dallas that season, and then the Rams going to Tampa, then the Rams going to the Super Bowl, Tampa went to Dallas in my replay because I think Chicago beat Philadelphia or whatever it was, and Tampa beat Dallas in Dallas. And then came back home to play whoever they played at home, and then went on to the Super Bowl where they ultimately lost to the Miami Dolphins, if you can believe it. But, yeah, to have Tampa go to Dallas and beat Dallas in Dallas, Dallas was the top seed. So in my replay, I was not expecting Tampa Bay to beat Dallas, that's for sure.
I just opened up the 78 season for Kansas City. And in that replay, they went 10-6, and they had the fifth best offense in football. They scored 25 points a game. They scored 403 points. Their defense couldn't stop a parked car.
So they won 6 more games than in real life.
But they went 10-6 and
yeah, that's pretty good for that's a vast improvement for football. 6 games.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Do I have a real record here?
You said they were 4-12, right?
They were 4. I think they were 4-12.
4-12, and they went 10-6. So
then they went 10-6, and the And they were 10-4. They lost in the walk-off safety game to Denver, and they lost in Week 16 to Seattle and had to back into the playoffs, I think. And they did it on the ground. They averaged 190.4 yards on the ground because they couldn't pass. There were teams that passed worse. I don't want to know what that is. It just happened to work.
So anyway, we want to ask everyone, if you've been playing a replay, whatever, on the tabletop, on the PC, what has happened that you said, I wasn't expecting that?
Whether it's an unexpected team making the playoffs or a team that, it doesn't necessarily have to be a project that you finished, that you took, let's say, your favorite team growing up, and they kind of they didn't do as well and you stopped. Well, I wasn't expecting it,
Yeah.
What are those sort of things?
Yeah, I did the 1980 World Series replay using Strat, and I had Kansas City won that one.
That wasn't a wild stretch.
That wasn't a wild stretch, but it was how they came back from, I think they were down
3-1 down,
3-2 or 3-1 down, and they come back to win it. I wasn't expecting that out of Kansas City, considering how dominant Philadelphia was in the first 3 or 4 games. But, yeah, we want to know from you guys, have you ever been doing a replay, small, medium, or large, and said, wow, I wasn't expecting that, good or bad, a team overachieving, team underachieving, or a player, that had come through. In my replay there of the shootout hockey, St. Louis Blues, Barclay Plager, the defenseman, not known for scoring, had 2 goals in one of the Stanley Cup games, and that pushed him over the edge to win that game. So it was fun seeing a guy like that come through.
I would be curious, because I'm sure, because of the era that the game was played in real life and how long ago it was, that probably one of the most replayed football games ever would be Super Bowl III. How many times did the Jets beat the Colts on the tabletop?
That's a good one too. Yep.
Because the Colts were 13, 14-point favorites.
Yeah.
And that's the ultimate. I wasn't expecting that in sports on a pro level. Did the Jets beat the Colts in a sim of yours, or the other way around? So,
yeah, but it is fun when all of a sudden you're playing and you have the benefit of knowing what happened in real life, and then you find out that, wow, this didn't go according to plan on this. And I'm not saying it's a bad or a thing or a good thing. It's just, wow, I wasn't expecting that.
I think it keeps us coming to the tabletop because, again,
doesn't it?
Doesn't it? Thousand times before. If you want to read history, go to one of the reference pages and just read box.
Yeah, I mean, if I sat down and played that 69 series, and every time I played a different game, Boston swept them 4-0. But I'm sitting down now and I'm going 7 games. I got Blues winning some. I got splitting 2 games in St. Louis already, and so it's fun. And that like, you're right. That's what keeps us coming back to the tabletop.
Canada essentially quitting in the third period of Game 8 in your replay. What did the Soviets put 5 or 6 on us?
Yeah.
In the third?
Yep. That shootout hockey replay.
Oh my gosh, that would have been.
That was got to be one of my most memorable tabletop experiences was when I played the homebrew shootout hockey game cards for the 72 Summit Series, and it just felt like it was real. It felt you were in Canada.
The air coming out of the balloon.
Yeah,
I think I was streaming a baseball game and relaying those scores, or maybe not for that last one, but I know we were doing that for some of the games in the series. But imagine that you had stayed up in real life late that night to watch the last game, and it was, 3-2 after 2? Certainly it was within reach for Canada. And then the Soviets just put on the show of all shows.
Yeah, I don't think they scored 3 or 4 goals. They destroyed them in Game 8. I think the series tied 4-4 if I wasn't mistaken. But yeah, they couldn't put them away over in Russia. But you could feel it. If Game 1 they got destroyed because of the jet lag. Game 2 they rose up and they won it. And then Game 3 out in Russia, which would be Game 7, I think they lost, and then they got crushed in Game 8. And they were just like, I just want to go home. You could feel them saying, just start the plane. I want to get out of here. And so, and I wasn't expecting that. Not at all. I was not expecting that, but it was so much fun again, and that's why we come back. So, so we want to reach out to you guys. Well, what have you guys played that something happened that you weren't expecting, good or bad? Just let us know in the comments, the usual places. And so, we'd like to get feedback on that because it's always fun when something happens that's not expected. It can be fun. It can be maddening. You know, when my Bruins blew that 3-0 series lead, and I thought I was going to get them to the cup again, and my jaw dropped. And I was like, I can't believe I'm out in the first round like this. I wasn't expecting that either. But
losing games 5 and 7 at home too.
Yeah, but I kept going, and I had a great final, 7-game finals with St. Louis, New York. A lot of fun in that replay there. But I was not expecting the Bruins to bow out. And I got to say, I went to bed angry that night that they lost 4 in a row. I went to bed angry. I got the next day, and we continued on with the playoffs, and we had some fun with it. And that's why we do it. So we want to get your feedback on that. So shall we wrap it up here?
Absolutely.
This has been Digital to Dice, episode 47, the Tory Krug episode. Or
Step on the ball.
All right, the guy from Hogan's Heroes. We'll put him in there, too. So, anyway, ways to get a hold of us. DigitalToDice.com is the website. That's you can find all of our podcasts over there on Spreaker.com. 978-751-DICE, 978-751-3423 if you want to send us a text. And over on Facebook, Facebook.com/group/DigitalToDice. Ron, thanks for joining me today.
As always.
And we'll catch everybody next week for a 1-year anniversary show. Get your comments in. We're going to read them on the air next week. Talk to everybody later. Bye-bye.